Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart, and this time we are talking about a Nintendo Direct reportedly happening next week. What does reportedly mean? It means a source is reporting the Direct is happening next week, and this particular source, I think, has shown enough for us to take it pretty darn seriously. And I think it's interesting to talk about the possibility of a Direct happening next week, because there are some who doubt that it would be happening because we just got the Super Mario Bros. Wonder Direct. But I actually think it points to the contrary. I think the existence of the Mario Bros. Wonder Direct actually has huge implications for what's to come in this next big Direct. And I do believe the source here that a Nintendo Direct is happening next week. So we're going to be talking about why the Direct is still likely after the Mario Bros. Wonder Direct, and why I think this Direct is actually going to be a bigger deal than what some might be thinking. So that's what we're talking about today. But before we go forward, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. With your help, it might just happen. So the site that is reporting that a Nintendo Direct is happening next week is Universo Nintendo. Now, Universo Nintendo is building up a bit of a track history here of being correct on things. So for example, a week before the June Nintendo Direct, when there was a lot of doubt about that one, they reported the Nintendo Direct would be happening, and they were correct. Now, they aren't saying that this Direct is going to be a general Direct or a Direct Mini, simply that a Direct is happening sometime next week. But it is probably going to be a general Nintendo Direct. Why? Because we tend to get general Nintendo Directs in September, pretty much every single September, and if it's not a general Direct, it's simply a deluge of Nintendo information in one way, shape, or form. And really, we don't need sites to report this for us because there's a lot of external factors that make this fairly obvious. So for example, Pokemon DLC coming out September 13th. Maybe they want to give us an update on that before it releases or the day it releases. Mortal Kombat 1, big third-party game coming out day and date on Nintendo Switch with the other platforms, but we have yet to see Switch gameplay. The early release is on September 14th. Maybe it's about time we see that in a Direct. There is also the rumor of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes Remastered coming out on Nintendo Switch fairly soon. So if the pattern of these GameCube games getting shadow dropped during Directs maintains, then that would lead one to believe that we're getting a September Direct where another GameCube remaster will be announced, potentially Metroid Prime 2, and it should be shadow dropped. And there are just other games that need to be discussed. Mario Wonder, yes, we got a Direct, but they can still share more information the same way we got information about Pikmin 4 a week before the June Nintendo Direct, and they still gave us more Pikmin 4 information. They should still probably give us more Mario Wonder information. But then there's also WarioWare, Detective Pikachu, and Super Mario RPG, the other big releases for this holiday. But also with the September Direct, they need to talk about the beginning parts of next year, because we can't just wait until January or February before we get any announcements, because then we wouldn't know about what's to come out in January or February unless they do a series of just social media announcements. But typically, they announce it a few months beforehand in a Direct, the September Direct. So whatever's coming out in January, February, March, we're likely going to learn about that in this upcoming September Direct. But then on top of that, we also have another leaker by Puro that has a crystal clear, spotless track record. They don't talk about things often, but when they do, they are correct. Puro on August 27th said, "Even my cat can leak a Nintendo Direct will air soon in September." This is an allusion to the leaker, I say that with air quotes, Zippo, who was talking about a whole bunch of things that would be happening, which, yeah, I don't want to get into which rumor leakers are better than others, but I don't talk about Zippo too often, for a reason. The track record just isn't that consistent. But someone quote tweeted Puro, and it was Puro's cat. And Puro's cat said, "A Nintendo Direct will air soon in September." And Puro liked this. And then also, someone else replying to Puro said, "What do you think of the number 13? And Puro liked this as well. Now, this may seem like we're looking too deep into things by looking at someone's likes on Twitter, but I think it's important to note that if you look at the dates that they like things, it's not like they're liking things every single day. It's almost like they're averaging about a like per day. There are some days they don't like anything. There are some days they might like one or two things. My point is that there is purpose behind their likes. Never mind the fact that they've also said that there will be a September Direct. Really, it's more of a question of when in September it's happening and what's going to be in the Direct. September is almost a shoo-in for there being a Direct. Now, I do think it's probably happening next week. It hasn't been announced for this week yet, so yeah, probably next week. If not the week after, but given the things I've already mentioned, probably, again, next week. Now, what I really wanted to focus on today, though, is just to talk about why I think this Direct is actually a bit of a bigger deal than your typical Direct. And I do think this is tied to the Mario Wonder Direct. So what I mean is, Mario Wonder is the big holiday game for 2023. That is the focal point. But by giving it its own 15-minute dedicated Direct, when this actual Nintendo Direct comes, they can spend some time on it, but it's not going to be the focal point of the show. I think there are going to be some big showcases in this Direct, or announcements, that are for next year, that are going to excite us, that are going to be big deal announcements. One of those could be the rumored Donkey Kong game. One of those could be, finally, Metroid Prime 4. As I've been saying in some of my previous videos, the September Directs tend to have about 4 or so major announcements for the next year, be it new information on something that's already been officially announced or just brand new announcements. So for example, we know about the Peach game, we know about the Luigi game. If we're conservative here, we can maybe account for those. I still think there'll be at least 2 brand new game announcements for next year that will excite us core Nintendo fans during this Direct. But another reason why I think this Direct is going to be a big deal is because, reportedly, from multiple places, Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out in the second half of 2024. And with us approaching the next generation of Nintendo, this is going to be one of the last main Directs where it's just about the Switch. It may not be the last, because there may be a February Direct, but if we are to be getting the Switch 2 in sometime in the second half of 2024, I'd imagine the announcement would have to happen about 6 months beforehand. Kind of like how they handled the Switch. The Switch had its first look trailer in October, and it came out in March. So I've personally been kind of thinking that we'll get an announcement for Switch 2 by the end of the fiscal year, which would be by the end of March of 2024. So that way Nintendo can excite its investors going into the next year, and also that would place them around the 6-month mark going into the holidays. Of course, that's assuming the Switch 2 comes out around September, and then it's a 6-month window. But give or take a month or two, I think I'm kind of close here. So if this is around when we're getting the announcement of the Switch 2, then that February Direct might not be a February Direct. Maybe we get like a mini instead, and there's like another announcement of something coming a little bit later down the road that's for like the first look at Switch 2 or something like that. So ultimately what I'm saying here is that this September Direct may be the last full-scale general Nintendo Direct before Nintendo introduces the Switch 2, because we might just get a mini in the beginning part of next year if there is going to be somewhat of a lull leading into the second half of next year as Nintendo does their transition. So I'm expecting big things for this Direct, and while I think there may be somewhat of a lull, I don't think the lull will mean no games. I think it simply will mean more remasters and simple things like that. Maybe there's a month or two where we see a little bit of a drought, but it won't be much. That's my expectation, at least. So September 13th may be the date of the final big general Nintendo Direct of the Switch era. There might still be one more. It might be a Direct Mini. Doesn't really matter because there are going to be Directs moving forward regardless, where there will be Switch announcements and Switch 2 announcements, I think. But this might be significant, and I am excited. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.